Hey guys, it is in fact the next day now, and I think I'm going to take 2 episodes here to describe the geopolitics to you. Today we're going to talk about the Middle East, the lovely fun part of the world, which I don't live too far away from. So, I mentioned that basically there was a genocide in Gaza with a war in Egypt, and Iran was the one really fighting back against it, and America was supporting Egypt. Now the genocide is over. The way the genocide became over is that Trump came into power in America. He immediately forced Israel to sign a genocide, a ceasefire. So, that's a good thing. The ceasefire basically, Trump didn't like the embarrassing situation Biden was in, where he had to constantly lie that he was trying his best, even while he was actively supporting the genocide. So Trump seems to be doing the opposite, where he actively tries to stop the genocide, but lies to his base that he's supporting Israel, even while he has a guy named Witkoff running around in Israel, really laying down the law. But that was a the genocide was for 6 weeks, and it's just ended. So that was maybe a couple months ago, 6 weeks ago. And now things have changed again. So the genocide just officially ended, but the next phase has not come into effect yet. But the genocide hasn't. I mean, the ceasefire's ended. Next phase hasn't started, but the genocide hasn't resumed. Like the Americans were all screaming, saying it was going to resume. And the reason it hasn't resumed is that it used to be there's 3 great powers in the Middle East these days. That's Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. Now, historically, it's Turkey, Iran, and Egypt. So Saudi Arabia has basically taken Egypt's seat, if you judge by like the medieval world. But basically, Turkey. Last time we spoke, Turkey had just conquered Syria. So now Syria's Turkey's bitch. And it was like, oh, Syria's on the western side. Now Turkey's on the western side. Turkey was not on the western side. They were just being a cheeky bastard, stealing everything. Turkey's on Turkey's side. So now Syria under Turkey and Israel are coming to blows around the messy border they have with each other. And also, there's a bigger deal. Let me do some in-game stuff. I'm going to send my 3 people to conquer most of Mexico, because Mexico's great. It'll be nice to own Mexico.
Establishing control.
But yeah, basically, Trump's last time in office in 5 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was, he built a thing called the Abraham Accords between Israel and Saudi Arabia, so Netanyahu and Mohammed bin Salman. And that was great fun. They were gonna have a new peaceful coexistence. And then when Trump leaves office, Netanyahu starts his genocide. So Trump was hoping to come back in and recreate a friendship between those two, but instead bin Salman wants to punish Netanyahu for making bin Salman look bad. And he wants to take the opportunity to win the game for himself, basically. We've just discovered the aliens. Later on, I'll show you where the aliens are. At some point. So... Oh wait, I need to do this. I'm preparing for my explosion as well. But anyway, so bin Salman wants to punish Netanyahu, and Trump doesn't really know about this. So bin Salman's built an alliance between...
Our inquiry so far has only yielded more mystery.
A lot is happening here. I probably should have saved that for later. But it's cool. They're discovering about the aliens. So anyway, bin Salman's built an alliance between Bahrain, Qatar over here himself, and then Jordan and Egypt. And this is a big deal because Egyptian army, which in this game is weak compared to the strong Israeli army, that's the guy lying. In real life, Egypt is way, way stronger than Israel. They have a population of 107 to Israel's 9, and their army is just as good and way bigger. So that's how it is. So basically, these guys are all hanging out looking at Bin Salman. I mean, at Netanyahu over here. Netanyahu wants to break the ceasefire, but it used to be America wouldn't let him. Now, these three great power alliances of his region are not going to let him. So it's all a mess, and one wrong move and it explodes. But if it explodes, it'll explode productively. There'll probably be, knock on some wood, because it could go badly wrong. And I don't want to be on the historical record saying it's going to be great. But there's a pretty good chance it ends up successful. So the chance is pretty good that eventually he folds and just loses, like if he folds, maybe he only fights with Syria, loses the Golan Heights. Or maybe he fights with Egypt, in which case he loses like some of his land. Palestine gains complete independence. Everything's looking pretty lucrative, like pretty opportunity-ish over here, because the regional players have gotten together, and they are going to do a number on Israel. But the other thing I want to mention is that in my little world, as a little American guy in the world, what Trump is doing is manipulating the media to benefit him in this game. And the problem with that is that all the people believe the media, and the Anglosphere zeitgeist is so completely detached from the truth on the ground right now that it's very annoying. And everyone believes that Trump is going to exile everyone in Gaza. There's no chance of that happening. They're starting to not believe that anymore, but for the longest time, and they keep telling me that Trump is so much worse than Biden. This is all they care about, is the Democrats versus the Republicans in America. So they want to prove that Trump is worse than Biden. So basically, Trump talks worse than Biden, and the Americans are all like, well, that means he's worse, and he's not. I'm just noticing now that in this game, the Academy has a 39% support in Israel. I could have easily conquered Israel, but even higher support in Palestine. Isn't that hilarious? So yeah, there's a big army on the border of Israel, which if he makes one wrong move, he's going to get punked. I would love to see him lose this entire Southland, and you connect those together. But the most likely outcome would be a full independence for Palestine, plus he loses the Golan Heights. So basically, ending up with the map that these game designers have given us here, with two completely separate countries. And in fact, there's a little bit here at the end on the border, which is Israeli, that shouldn't be. That's the Golan Heights. It looks like it's Syria in this map, but it's actually Israeli. So most likely outcome, we're going to actually end up with the map that we have here. But there's a chance he loses the whole south. There's a chance that he blows up the Aswan High Dam over here. And if he blows up the Aswan High Dam, they're saying it could kill 10 million Egyptians. So that would be a big problem. If 10 million Egyptians die, that would change the game, but I don't think that's likely to happen. This is a war these days. It's all about bluster and brinkmanship, and everyone talks, and then little tiny actions actually happen. So probably Egypt will walk its army into Gaza, but Egypt could walk its army into Israel. They have army on the Israeli border as well. And probably Syria will seize the Golan Heights. Egypt is talking about conquering the whole southern Syria because they talk a big game. So this is the most exciting part of the world right now, and it's quite optimistic. But tomorrow I'm going to tell you about Ukraine, and then I'm going to tell you also about America, which isn't a war, but it's a mess. So that should be a lot of fun for everyone. And then I'm also going to I'm just going to run the game in the background. In the game, the aliens have... I've discovered something, and I'm supposed to... I just slowly discover stuff. I think what I told you about yesterday, that they're dropping the stuff and then it's running away. So hopefully you won't miss too much of the game, as I don't pay attention to it, but I want to talk to you about the world. So I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll talk about the other, and I guess Europe as well. We'll talk about a big blast of Ukraine, America, and Europe. Talk to you guys then.